Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Ronald Reagan Institute. 40 years ago, President Reagan stood on a lonely windstep point on the northern shore of France. He was there to memorialize the D-Day invasion, to honor the boys of Pointe du Hoc, and he was there to share a message with the world. He said, quote, "We've learned that isolationism never was and never will be an acceptable response to tyrannical governments with an expansionist intent. We are bound today by what bound us 40 years ago, the same loyalties, traditions, and beliefs. We're bound by reality," the president said. "The strength of America's allies is vital to the United States, and the American security guarantee is essential to the continued freedom of Europe's democracies." The president said, "We were with you then, we are with you now. Your hopes are our hopes, and your destiny is our destiny." End quote. We wish our honored guests to know the American people continue to be committed to that vision. I'd like to recognize our guest of honor, President Zelensky. We are humbled to have you here during this very consequential week in Washington, D.C. And I want to welcome our many distinguished guests here with us tonight. We welcome the members of the President's delegation. Thank you for being here. We welcome the members of Congress. Thank you for being here. Members of the administration, members of the Washington Diplomatic Corps, and of course, members of the Board of Trustees of the Ronald Reagan Presidential Foundation and Institute. We're grateful to have you here in person this evening. I also want to thank all those joining us online watching this evening's program. Now, the Reagan Institute, which I'm privileged to lead, is the Washington, D.C. home of the Reagan Foundation, right here on Lafayette Park, across from the White House, that President and Mrs. Reagan once called home. And the mission of the Reagan Institute is to shape the future and to elevate and encourage the leaders of today who embody the timeless values championed by President Reagan. President Zelensky is such a leader. President Reagan said in his 1980 inaugural address, quote, "Above all, we must realize that no arsenal and no weapon in the arsenals of the world is so formidable as the will and moral courage of free men and women." He continued, "It is a weapon our adversaries in today's world do not have. It is a weapon that as Americans we do have. Let that be understood by those who practice terrorism and prey on their neighbors." End quote. The will and moral courage of free men and women is not exclusive to America's arsenal. It is a powerful weapon that Ukrainians have too, as they repel a brutal invasion by an authoritarian neighbor. President Zelensky has rightly said, after the horrific attack yesterday, particularly on the Children's Hospital in Kyiv, that those who show only sympathy for Ukraine, quote, "mere concern does not stop the terror. Condolences are not a weapon." Now that is something Leader McConnell understands well. From the beginning of this awful war, he has been a crucial figure in ensuring that America provides security assistance to Ukraine. Countless times, he has taken up the cause of Ukraine's defense on the Senate floor, even when it was politically difficult to do so. Leader McConnell, thank you for continuing to demonstrate the kind of leadership that President Reagan knew was essential to the future of democracy itself.